Okay guys, Micron stock is up huge 800 700% in the last year, but it's down 14% in the last week. I think it's going to go up massively in the coming months and years. So let's discuss that in today's video. Guys, if you like this content, please hit that like button, hit subscribe. I do appreciate you guys supporting the channel. Really quickly want to point out the reason I think I'm qualified to talk about this when it comes to stocks and investing. Your boy has a $2 million net worth. That's $2,031,000. Currently have $886,000 in stocks, over $300 in cash. So of course could have about 1.2 almost in stocks, waiting to deploy that cash. We'll be putting some of that in Micron stock. Today we had a huge buy alert. I believe yesterday, of course, our favorite talking head, Jim Cramer, had an interview with Micron CEO, gave some extremely bullish news for Micron. So we're going to talk about that in today's video, what exactly Micron CEO said. Really quickly, I want to point out, guys, for those of you freaking out about this 14% drop, I want to look at this headline here. Relax, Micron stock can rebound quickly after the 4th of July holiday. Just want to point out to you guys, like, pullbacks will happen, right? Stocks can go down in the short term, right? But I'm going to show you today why the CEO is extremely confident, and I am as well, that demand will continue to skyrocket for the coming years. And of course, people are taking profits, right? We saw, the price of the stock go up 800%. Of course, we're going to have some people selling to take those profits. Of course, some people are going to be skeptical that the demand cannot keep pace, but we're going to point out why this demand is likely to last for years, and there really is not a lot of competition coming. If you guys look on your screen here, really the main competition is SK and Samsung when it comes to competition for Micron making memory chips. Let's take a quick look as far as is demand coming in the pipeline. Are there any fabs being built to compete with Micron? Now, these are the fabrication centers to create these memory chips. And essentially, yes, the memory market is currently dominated by a few key players. Instead of new startups, there really isn't startups competing in the memory space. These are established companies that really know what they're doing. And there's really only a handful in the entire planet that, one, have the funds to do it, and two, have the expertise. Now, Micron's primary competitors, Samsung and SK, are actively building massive multi-billion-dollar memory mega clusters and fabrication plans to scale up capacity and compete with Micron. So SK in South Korea are making massive AI investments, heavily in memory manufacturing, including an $80 trillion won expansion in South Korea, targeting the NAND memory production and advanced memory packaging. Samsung is doing the same as well, pouring $230 billion into building 5 new semiconductor plants in Seoul, South Korea, heavily focused on meeting surging AI and DRAM demand. And Micron itself is expanding as well. To defend its own market share, it is expanding operations aggressively. This includes building new advanced DRAM fabs in Boise, Idaho, and breaking ground on a massive 4-fab complex in Clay, New Mexico. So first thing I want to point out, guys, is there's only 2 real competitors, right? Like real competitors to Micron. That's not a lot of competition, right? They're also in another country. So when you take into account that the US wants chips, especially memory chips, to be made in the US for geopolitical security reasons, those competitors are expanding. We also have Micron expanding as well, right? So why would Micron be expanding if they didn't expect demand to continue? Let's take a look and see what the CEO said in an interview with Jim Cramer yesterday. And I think this is very bullish for the stock. Now, Jim Cramer gets Micron CEO to reveal what's next for AI chips. The shortage is structural, not cyclical, and the Micron CEO told Cramer why it will not resolve quickly. Now, that is a major, I would say, reason people say, hey, you can't really invest in memory chips long term. It's a very cyclical market. These stocks tend to boom and bust. And in the past, this has been true. But there's a lot of data showing that this is not the case going forward. So let's take a look here. Stock is now trading near $970, down from a 52-week high of over $1,200 on June 25th. And investors are wrestling with the question, how long can this last? Now, on June 30th, Jim Cramer sat down with Micron chairman, president, and CEO Sanjay Maratha on Mad Money for what turned out to be one of the most interesting conversations we've seen regarding the memory chip shortage and what actually comes next. Now, the CEO did not hedge, he did not deflect, he answered the hard questions directly, and what he said matters for anyone trying to understand where Micron and the broader AI chip supply chain go from here. Now, Cramer opened up with central questions to the market is trying to answer. When, if ever, will the memory chip shortage resolve? If that shortage resolves quickly, obviously demand could go down, prices could go down, and the stock price could go down as well. Now, the CEO's answer was extremely specific. He said, the industry needs greenfield capacity. This means new construction of clean rooms. These clean rooms take a long time from shovel in the ground to first wafers out. He confirmed that Micron's first Idaho fab will have wafers out by mid-2027. So if we circle back to that summary we showed you, that Micron is expanding their facilities to build more memory chips, that first one isn't even going to start pumping out wafers for another year from now. And that is the first one, right? And we don't see demand slowing down. Of course, demand could slow down, but we don't see the hyperscalers, at least yet, slowing down when it comes to building out artificial intelligence infrastructure. And a second Idaho fab developed with the Trump administration comes online by the end of 2028. That's 18 months from now. So we have at least a year for even the first one to come online while we have a massive shortage. So essentially the CEO expects for this extreme shortage to continue beyond 2027, right? So we have a year for that first manufacturing plant to really start pumping out chips in about a year. But even that in itself is not expected to really, resolve this supply crunch that we have. Now, the numbers behind the statement are stark. Micron's Q3 fiscal 2026 results reported on June 24th showed total revenue of $41.46 billion, up 346% from a year ago. That is completely insane, up from $9.3 billion. Non-GAAP EPS came in at $25.11 against a $20.78 estimate. Free cash flow hit $18.3 billion, which is a company record. Now, I want to point out, guys, the CEO actually said that just in the last 2 quarters, and I have to double check this, but I believe in just the last 2 quarters, Micron has printed as much free cash flow as it did in like the last 10 to 15 years. I'll have to double check that, but I believe I read that. Just completely insane. Now, that is not a cyclical bottleneck, but a structural supply constraint being met with continued and accelerating demand. Now, these memory chips, HBM, high bandwidth memory, this is not your grandfather's memory, and Cramer pushed the CEO on exactly that. Now, some have called it a technical marvel. Some have called it a combination of magic and science. This is not your grandpa's memory. This is extremely advanced memory, complex stuff, a lot of IP. Micron has patents approaching 65,000 patents. HBM takes a lot more wafers to produce than a standard memory, and that's putting a lot of pressure on supply as well. So if you see, guys, it's not just a matter of building a plant. Even if you have the money to build a plant, which not many companies do, most companies don't have the IP, they don't have the expertise, they don't have the patents, right? This is extremely complex technology. This isn't like a memory chip that you put in your, old, 1995 gigantic camera, right? These are extremely complex chips. So even if you can build the facility, most companies don't have the expertise. There's only a handful of companies that can do so. So what does that mean? Micron has massive pricing power, folks. So with that pricing power comes things like earnings per share skyrocketing. You have cash flow skyrocketing. You have demand going through the roof. And quite frankly, this is having massive impacts, not just on, chips for AI data centers, but even like iPhone products or Apple products, iPhones, computers are starting to go up, right? So people are concerned about that. That's a whole different story. But guys, for now, Micron has massive pricing power. I do expect in the coming months, in the coming years, this stock to go up massively, right? Of course, we're going to have some, volatility in the short term. We've already seen the stock go down. Again, as I pointed out, down 14% in the last week. I do think this will be relatively short term, and I do plan in the coming weeks and or months to buy heavy into this stock. So if you guys want to see which stocks I'm buying and when, click the link in the description of this video. I just created a Patreon. You guys can see which stocks I'm buying. I'll give you my opinions on which stocks I'm bullish on, and I'll be creating a little community in there as well so we can all chat about which stocks we want to talk about. I'm going to create a specific channel on Discord just for Micron Stock. So with that said, guys, thank you so much for watching. Appreciate you again. Please like and subscribe. And really quickly, take a look at that view out there, folks. I'm out here in North Carolina on vacation. Look at those mountains, so beautiful. Hope you're all having a great 4th of July. Smash like, smash subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next video.